What is happening, everybody? So, doing a little truck shopping. Here's the thing. The work truck it's coming up on about 90,000 miles. And I'm on the fence right now as to whether I should go ahead and trade it in on a newer vehicle or if I should go ahead and give it a refresh. With the idea being that I put so many miles per year on that truck or any vehicle really that I'm using for work, and because of that, there's some warranty issues that could possibly start to show up a little bit later down the line. And, to mitigate that, well, you get something new and you trade on. So, in the process of that, one of the trucks that I looked at today was the Ford F-150 with the 3.5 EcoBoost and the 10-speed automatic. It was a crew cab sport edition with the 3.55 rear axle. Now, the reason why I want to talk about this truck is, number one, it's an EcoBoost. And most of the more, opinionated comments that I've received in the past when talking about my truck have come from EcoBoost owners. Basically, I wanted to see what all the fuss was about. Mainly with that 10-speed automatic though. I've driven the EcoBoost with the 6-speed. Time to give that brand new 10-speed automatic a go. And let's be honest. Yes, I am a Mopar guy at heart, but I can't tell you how many Mustangs I've worked on or owned in the past, and I've owned Ford trucks as well. I've got a soft spot in my heart for the brand, and because Ford's reputation for fit and finish has really been one of its key selling points up to this point, I wanted to take a look at that truck. So, driving impressions. Well, the driving impressions alone don't really do the truck justice. The interior fit, finish, quality, that is really the biggest selling point of that truck. And with that Sport Edition, it really doesn't matter what engine is in it. If you get to spend time in that interior, that's good enough alone. The initial quality of that interior, I would say, is the highest of any truck that I've looked at so far. It has the feel of the interior of something much more expensive. Basically, European is the way that I would put it. The seats, the way that they feel when you sit down in them, are a bit more firm. The material feels a bit more expensive. The plastics, if they are plastic, are the soft touch. They're very nice. In other words, it's a very nice compartment to spend time in, which for me is a huge selling point with all the miles that I put on a vehicle. The way that the truck felt just in terms of going down the road without mashing on the throttle or anything like that was very car-like, and it feels much larger than it really is. That may have to do with the fact that it's so quiet on the inside of that truck. You can't hear anything. No wind noise, no nothing. You could have a whisper conversation with the person sitting next to you in that truck going down the freeway. So because of that, that's a pretty compelling argument in favor of the Ford. But the real reason why I wanted to drive the truck was because I wanted to see how that EcoBoost ran with a 10-speed automatic. And I gotta tell you, coming from a naturally aspirated V8 to an EcoBoost and then adding that 10-speed automatic, well, it gave kind of a weird driving experience. Not weird in a bad way, just weird as, like a food that you've never tasted before and you're having it for the first time. Let me explain that a little bit farther. So, the transmission, the 10-speed automatic, has a normal mode, a tow haul mode, and a sport mode. Normal mode is extremely sedate with that truck, and you almost get the sense that it's, a little bit sluggish. Well, that is until you put your foot down on the floor, but unless you're really pushing that truck, there's really nothing to write home about. Click that thing down into sport mode and it's a completely different beast. And as an aside, I cannot wait to drive one of the new Mustangs with that 10-speed automatic, because the difference between normal driving mode and sport mode in that truck was significant, to say the least. Throttle responses jumped up quite a bit. Shift firmness, much more aggressive. It completely changes the complexion of that vehicle in a way that no other transmission sport mode I've ever driven has felt. So I'm pretty excited about that. Very exciting too. If you do get an opportunity to drive one of those trucks, do not forget about putting that thing into sport mode. But the power delivery is really what was, I don't know, the different flavor that I was talking about earlier. The way that that EcoBoost drives, if you've never driven one, is very similar to a very strong running diesel truck. In fact, that's one of the first things that I thought was, this thing pulls and drives like a diesel truck. And what I mean by that is you get this slight lag when you first roll onto the throttle quickly. You get a slight lag, this wave of power, and then it shifts. You don't get that carrying out of the power feel that you get with the naturally aspirated V6. Just as things are getting exciting, it shifts gears again. So it's not that the truck felt slow, because it didn't, and it's not that it felt like there was any lack of power, because there wasn't. It just, you got the impression almost that it was short shifting every gear, even though it wasn't. I'm not sure if that has more to do with the functioning of the 10-speed automatic or just how that EcoBoost makes power, but it was just a little bit different, something I wasn't exactly used to. Not necessarily bad, but you just have to experience it for yourself, because me trying to put this into words, it just almost feels like I'm doing the truck either an injustice or I'm downplaying just how good that truck really drove. So after I drove that truck, I got into my truck. Now, yeah, my truck does have a very mild tune on it, but the tune on my truck is really more to take away torque management in the ECU. There's really no extra power in my tune, especially considering that I've pulled about 2 degrees of timing out of it, basically just to accommodate fuel quality. And the difference between going from that Ford to my Ram 1500 was really night and day. The Ford felt like it was much larger. It felt so much more refined than my truck. Now, granted, I've got about 90,000 miles on my truck, but to give you a sense of just the driving impression, I get back into my truck and I start playing around with it, and it feels more like a gasoline-powered car than a diesel-powered truck. So just to give you initial driving impressions and maybe a compare and contrast between the two, man, I gotta tell you, the interior of that Ford is a great place to spend time. The fit and finish, the initial quality is, I would say, a step above where the most recent Rams are. But God, for my money that I've got to spend, and in a vehicle that I've got to spend that much time in, as nice as that Ford is and as good as it runs, I'm not so sure that that's going to be my next truck. And I'm really glad that I went and test drove that Ford too. I would have liked to be able to drive a 5-liter with that 10-speed automatic, but I was told that's not an option, at least earliest until the end of this year, maybe into next year. That might be a bit better comparison to get maybe a 5-liter with a 373 gear and the 10-speed automatic. But for now, I think I'm just going to give the work truck a bit of a refresh, see how many more miles I can put on it. God, you know what? I don't even know if I'll ever get rid of that truck, as much fun as it is to drive. And that's really the point to this. As refined, as nice, as really, in so many ways, European feeling, almost like it had a BMW-esque quality to that interior. As great as all of that is with the Ford, the one thing that it seemed to lack was just the fun factor. Even with the transmission in sport mode, just the way that that truck shifted so abruptly, and the fact that to me it felt just like a very strong running diesel truck, which is a compliment, really. It's not a knock on it. It just didn't offer that I don't know, that fun factor, that grin producing sensation that my truck currently gives me. So at any rate, those are my thoughts on that new 3.5 EcoBoost with the 10-speed automatic. Post up your comments. Let me know what you think about that truck. If you've got one, love to hear how that is working out for you. And that's a wrap on this one. Y'all have a great one. Adios.